Good evening. I'd like to call to order this evening's Common Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 13th, and it is 7 p.m. We'll begin by asking our city clerk, Joanne Marcon, to call the roll.
Mayor Kim Smith,
Aye.
Jim Benash,
Here.
Kathy Lohendorf. Here. Stephen Knott,
Here.
Mike Milkey,
Here.
Larry Jurassic,
Here.
Diane Wolf. Here.
Thank you. Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. The City Council and its subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, obscene remarks, or threats of violence. Sufficient warnings may be given by the sergeant at arms or the chair at any time during the remarks. In the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum as set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4 is public input. If any member would like to give public input, now is the time to do so. If you choose to do so, please come forward, begin by listing your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. Welcome.
My name is Jeff. My last name is Spellman. And my home phone I'll give also. It's a 608-784-3162. You probably wonder why I'm here tonight. The simple reason is I have directed traffic for St. Pat's funerals. I was taken away from doing that. Originally, when I was given that opportunity to do so, I was given that by Captain Moen and the police chief of the city of Onalaska. I have done that and have had no problem at all. I was also certified AED CPR training at St. Pat's for the parish people and whatever it takes in Onalaska. I have saved a life for somebody in that operation as well. I'm asking for the council, the attorneys, to give me back the rights to save an accident soon to happen. When a funeral procession leaves Levinson, Maine, and heads to the cemetery, whether it's Onalaska, the Catholic Cemetery, Oak Grove, Mormon Coulee, the funeral director down the road doesn't know what's going on. By the time they get to the intersection, I have traffic stopped. When it goes down further and other traffic is stopped at the center line, other cars don't know what's going on and they're passing. When they pass, there's going to be an accident. And I want to put a stop to it. I've seen it happen close, very close, when I was taking the responsibility away from doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Spell your last name and give us your address.
My last name is Felmy, Foellmi. My address is 1503 Caroline Street in the town of Campbell. And I also stop traffic in the town of Campbell as well. If you have any questions, you can contact Tricia Stratman. She will also give you a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, public input. Welcome.
Kyle, 426 4th Avenue North. I'm hearing a little bit of sadness tonight, but I know it's a chief's last hurrah. And the community and I owe him a special thank you for all that he has done to make this department so fantastic. Because I know it was low pay at the beginning, but at least he's got some up there. And he's developed a department with some older officers and many young men and ladies. And the community and this council and I owe you a great thank you, sir. And may whatever the future be, may it be bright and good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, public input. Welcome.
Stephen Roberts. I live at 2203 Craig Lane West on Alaska and Oak Park. I just got my vehicle registration and they said it already had a wheel tax applied to it from the state. Am I going to get the double tax through the city of Onalaska for the same vehicles?
This isn't a dialogue. You just speak during this time. It's your
Yes.
opportunity to give input.
Because I got a lot of vehicles.
Mhm.
I don't want to, I can see the wheel tax, but I don't want to pay twice. I don't want to pay $50 per vehicle or trailer or whatever I got. Other than that, and okay, how come sometimes it takes 2 days to get my street plowed out there in the winter? When their maintenance shop is up on maintenance, on Mason Street. But Franklin Street's plowed out and I'm only a block over on Craig Lane West. I used to drive plow truck. I know we got conditions, our conditions, and you gotta work with it, but it shouldn't take 2 days. I mean, if your cows got out, would it take you 2 days to go find them? I don't think so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public input this evening? Amanda, is there anyone online raising their hand? Second call for public input. Third and final call for public input this evening. Not seeing or hearing anyone, public input is now closed. And we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is a public hearing. This is to consider adoption of a final resolution to vacate and discontinue portions of the Westwood Lane, Carefree Drive, Holly Drive, Hilltop Drive, Overhill Drive, located in the city of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. I'll now open the public hearing and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of adopting this final resolution to vacate. Second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this item. That part of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against. Anyone wishing to speak against the resolution to vacate and discontinue the portions of these roads as described. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against this resolution. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Is the resolution later in the agenda? Or are we doing it now?
It is not on tonight's agenda.
Okay. So what do we need to do right now?
Yeah.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. So we need to take action on the resolution? No? Okay, I'm confused. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you for your guidance, Katie. Item 6, report from the mayor. This one I've got under control. Start with item, sorry about that. The first item under the mayor's report is recognition of the retirement of Police Chief Charles Ashbeck and appreciation for his 30 years of service in law enforcement. I have prepared a proclamation for Chief Ashbeck. I'll begin by reading it. I'll come out and present it to him and then give him an opportunity to say a few words. So first I'll share with you the proclamation I prepared for Chief Ashbeck. This is in recognition of his retirement. Whereas Onalaska Police Chief Charles Ashbeck announced his retirement after 30 years of service dedicated to policing, with the final 6.5 years as the Chief of Police in the city of Onalaska. His last day worked will be January 20th, 2026. Whereas Chief Ashbeck began his career as a patrol officer in the city of Racine, he built his career there, first gaining the education and experience to make sergeant shift commander, then making the move across the state in 2007 to accept a promotion to the position of police chief in West Salem. There he served for 12 years until accepting the challenge of leading the larger Onalaska Police Department in 2019. Whereas during his leadership as police chief, he has brought forward many notable programs and improvements to the police department. With his leadership, our city has formalized and expanded the use of drones, advocated for and navigated the addition of body cameras, created and implemented strategies for securely managing data, improved staffing models, assisted with successful negotiation of multiple union contracts, added a second K-9, developed the police electric vehicle program and solar-powered chargers, excuse me, developed new strategies to overcome extreme staffing shortages, and more. These programs and initiatives have helped modernize our police department, created efficiencies, and saved our taxpayers money. Whereas throughout his career, Police Chief Ashbeck has remembered his patrol roots from his early years in Racine. He has demonstrated daily compassion for all humanity that can be lost in the daily challenges of police work. He has worked regionally to support community policing. He has continually sought to support our officers as they build strong, positive relationships within our community. Now, therefore, as mayor of the city of Onalaska, I do hereby proclaim as follows. The city of Onalaska hereby congratulates Police Chief Charles Ashbeck on his retirement from the city of Onalaska Police Force and thanks him for his lasting contribution to our community. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, very much for the kind words. I'll keep this short. I have a tendency to get emotional, so keep this short. It has been an honor of my lifetime to serve Onalaska. Thank you for your trust and faith in me to serve in this role. And thank you for your support over all these years. Thank you, Mayor Smith, for your leadership and your guidance. Thank you, Administrator Niemeyer, for your support and wonderful working relationship, as well as all the department heads. I'm grateful for your support, teamwork, and your friendships over these past years. My goal was to leave this department in a better place than when I arrived, and I believe we did that. We accomplished that. And I handed out a sheet tonight that lists some of those accomplishments that, as you can see, is listed as team accomplishments because I could not have done it without the hardworking staff that support me in our department. So I'll be forever grateful to my staff, Assistant Chief Berg, city staff, and the community for all their support and believe in me for our mission in serving the public. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Chief. We will be holding a celebration, which is an open house on his last workday, which is January 20th from 11 to 2 here in the council chambers. If you'd like to join us and share some more fond memories with the chief. Okay. Item B is recognition of Jim Wickheiser's service on the Police and Fire Commission. Most of you are probably familiar with Jim. He's served in various ways in our community and continues to serve along with his wife. He will continue to do that, but he has hung up his hat with the Police and Fire Commission. And so I just want to take this opportunity to thank him for his service, not only on the Police and Fire Commission, but for all he's done for our community. One of the families that has just really dedicated their life to service here. And then also recognize under item C, Tom Smith has resigned from the Plan Commission, another person who's really dedicated a life of service to our community. But Tom is actually resigning for a good reason. He is has accepted the position on the Police and Fire Commission, which I have appointed him to. And for clarity, the Police and Fire Commissions are mayoral appointments that are not further approved by the council. So this is for information only for these items. Then moving on to item E, discussion and possible action regarding a contribution to the cost of a study regarding the shared fire services with the Village of Holmen and the Town of Holland. You have a copy of that in your packet, or maybe received it separately. The request for proposals. We've been trying to find additional ways that we can share services with our neighbors. The latest, I guess, consideration is potentially entering into the shared fire service agreement to hire a firm to see if they can identify ways that we can work together. Because there's, I don't know if you've had a chance to review that. It's kind of pros and cons about going forward with it. Generally, Chief Rick and I have discussed it, and well, I think overall we're in favor of, trying to do the study and find ways that we can do it. We think there's also some concerns that we have, mainly that the Village of Holmen and the Town of Holland maybe need to take some actions in a faster timeline than what we're going to be able to achieve. We don't have, even if they find ways in this study that we can cooperate more and do things together, that will be a good thing. But as far as things beyond that, we need to be planning more for the future, not for the immediate. So I don't know, Rick, if you want to add, kind of build on that a little bit.
Certainly. So the 4 municipalities have been meeting pretty regularly over the past several months. I've updated you a couple of different times as this process has been going on. From my perspective, and I'm speaking for myself, but as the city of Onalaska, we don't know what we don't know when it comes to what kind of opportunities there are out there for some kind of a shared service. And shared service doesn't necessarily mean a combined fire department. It could be simply cooperating in some form or fashion. I know that 2 fire chiefs from Holmen and Onalaska are already doing some forms of cooperation. This study has the opportunity to show us maybe there are other things we're just not aware of. I do believe that shared services in some form or fashion with any municipalities across the state is what the future is going to look like when we are facing limited budgets. So while I do think that this could be beneficial, I'm certainly not thinking that this is going to solve any potential issues or concerns that are out there. As Mayor has indicated too, there are some challenges that we face in regards to moving forward with this. As you saw in the proposal, it outlines what it is that they're going to take a look at. This particular firm has done this type of a study before, and so they have assisted other departments with looking at the same particular topic. You also will have seen that there is a cost associated with this, with what they're planning to do, approximately $50,000. When the municipalities were originally having a conversation, there was talk about sharing that cost. And Holmen has already approved that they're going to pay for their share of it. I believe Holland has done it or is doing it. And one of the considerations tonight is if council wants to move forward with what this proposal is, just need to talk about what that contribution might be. We've had some conversations with the Town of Onalaska, and they're okay with sharing this because this is something that they've shared with their own board as well too. This isn't something that they budgeted for when they prepared their 2026 budget. So where their finances fall in regards to their share remains to be seen. Their board meeting was this evening, and I don't believe it was on their agenda. So that is something that they will consider presumably next month. But they're also looking to see what the city of Onalaska is doing. Since they do contract with us for services, they are looking to see what we are going to do as well. Not knowing exactly what their budgetary situation is, myself, if council wants to move forward with doing this study, there should be a contribution of at least a fourth of the cost of the study. Again, not knowing what the town of Onalaska is able to do at this point in time, whether there is any consideration for some additional to assist them. Again, they haven't considered it at their board meeting tonight, but that's something that they will be considering in the near future. So that's kind of where things are at right now. There's no, like Mayor said, there's no specific timeline for us. There is no urgency on this other than just to start moving forward at some point if council chooses to do so. And if for some reason this isn't the right time, then we will revisit it at another date. So I guess that's what I had to add to it. Chief Leddy, I don't know if you wanted to add anything further.
Yeah, let me just add before moving off of that, another aspect with the town that I was going to say is that it is also kind of, you think about the Holland and the Village of Holmen are already working cooperatively together for the Holmen Fire District and as one, and the town of Onalaska is paying us to provide their fire coverage. And so really this agreement is more helping the city of Onalaska. So it's hard to understand like what portion should the town of Onalaska pay as well, because they don't have the capital investment and they don't have the potential advantages and savings that we do. So it's just a very complex situation for us to all try to maneuver. And so I don't think there is a really right answer here tonight or a wrong answer. We just want to try to bring to you, kind of the pluses and minuses and see where you want to go with it. But I'll let Chief talk now. Go ahead, Pete. No, Pete's not going to say anything. Okay, we got it covered. Okay, so now I'll open it up to counselors for questions or discussion if you would like to have that. Stephen Knott.
Yeah, well, Onalaska being the largest of the municipalities out of any agreement that may or may not come out of this, I've got no issue in it not being a exact fair share. However, I would personally like to see the town of Onalaska contributing something, because if they aren't going to contribute, then I would question whether or not they're all in and will actually take ownership of their portion of this study. I mean, there has to be an investment into it, I think, for me to be convinced that they actually would be interested in doing this. How much that is, I don't know. Again, to me, it doesn't have to be an exact fair share. I don't know, because they are much smaller than us. So.
Okay, does anyone else have any other comments? Mike Milkey?
Thank you, Mayor. Not to put Sabrina on the spot, but just a quick question for you. With this lump sum that we're looking at, I guess where in the budget will we be looking for this to come from?
We would come back with a budget resolution to pay for this in 2026. We could set some reserves aside to pay for it if that would be the intent of the council, but it would come out of the general fund.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina.
Mhm.
That was my only question.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Jim Benash?
This has been a hot topic for some time now, that is sharing duties amongst our neighbors. And obviously we're doing that now with the town of Onalaska. The concern I would have is that we've been talking about at least a minimum of 6 EMS firefighters for the city of Onalaska. And if we were to move forward, I think that something like that, if we're going to provide service and to other towns, cities, villages, that should be dispersed amongst everybody. Because if we're going to provide the bulk of the coverage because of the equipment and the training and the personnel that we have, it may be a good idea, but I think that the biggest burden is going to be workload and personnel. So if we can share the cost on that, it may be a good idea. But if we're going to absorb the full cost of adding more personnel for this particular process, is it a benefit for us? And I've got some concerns, but I also see it, the future is going to be shared services. I'd figure out a way to do it.
Okay, Alder Diane Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple questions. One would be the lump sum of 49,380. I assume that that is for the entire scope of services study. And then it's just a matter of us figuring out of the 4 entities that are looking to get involved here, what's everyone's share going to be?
That is correct.
Because can I assume, I shouldn't assume anything. I mean, are we looking at the possibility of just equally doing it 1 quarter across all entities? Or, I mean, I just look at the size and the scope, and I guess at the end of the day, an answer is an answer to them. But while I'm on that subject, so back when it was then Mayor Chilson, I think it was about 2019, 2020, I remember I went in his place as council president at that time and had a room full of chiefs, assistant chiefs, council people, mayors and such. And we ended up having UWL across, he was an associate professor of political science, public administration, John Kovari, went ahead and did this huge study. So can I assume that we've looked at that, or has anyone unearthed that to kind of see where we were at with that? I mean, I realize it's also 5-6 years later, but, and if I remember correctly, and there's an article on the Tribune as of February 4th, 2021, if anyone ever wants to Google that, is it was a 3-tier study. And each of the tiers gave a lot of information. So I'm trying to find, so tier 1 looked at shared training services, recruitment, fire prevention services, and inspections. Tier 2 was mutual aid. And tier 3 was sharing stations, sharing apparatus, and a consolidated regional fire department. So I thought that we had, I mean, I think a lot of work and time and energy and personnel went into that. But when I see the names quoted in the paper, I think they're all changed. So I'm just wondering whether or not anyone has talked about that or has pulled that out and dusted it off just to kind of see what was found out.
Yes, so those have been in consideration, and the consultants, this is actually, I think, the second study that this group has done. The other one was done separately from us.
Okay, yeah.
So this one would look specifically at what we're doing right now and what Holman is doing right now, and evaluate ways that we could work together.
Okay.
And our biggest concern is, as I mentioned, that our timelines are not, like, we're looking for ways to look together in the future, and they're looking for ways to work together right now. And we can work together with them right now, but we don't have a way to fund anything right now. So we're not sure. So we just don't want to build a false expectation. We don't want to come in here and say, we want to do this study and it's going to solve all our problems, because it isn't, right? It's going to, but we don't, as Rick said, we don't know what we don't know. So if we can find, if the study yields us more ways that we can work together and create efficiencies and save our taxpayers money, and get more firefighters at incidents, and use the equipment that each of the fire departments have more effectively, or find a way to co-locate somewhere that we can fund, then it's worth it, right? So, but we don't know that. And a lot of those things were outlined in the earlier study, but that wasn't focused on just these 2 specific fire departments working together. And we do want to work together, but we have to find a way to do that that's equitable for our taxpayers. Because if you look at, the capital investment that we have in the Onalaska Fire Department, it's greatly higher than any of the other partners. And so we have that to look at too, so that we're fair to our taxpayers.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I don't know what else I can add if anyone else wants to jump in. I'm very passionate about this topic.
That's great.
I think at the end of the day, I think, we talk about it and it's been a hot topic for quite a few years, like Alderman Nash mentioned. But I still stand behind the idea of regional cooperation. I think anything that we can do that's going to benefit all. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at supporting my fire department and my staff and our equipment that we have put in millions of dollars in. But I'm always willing to look at something. But I do have a concern about that our timelines are not necessarily matched up. And I don't want to be on someone else's timeline because that could end up costing us. So, but I also understand the trials they may be going through and they need an answer sooner because of where they're at in the process. But I'm certainly willing to entertain the idea. And I'm looking forward to what everyone else has to say. Thank you.
Okay, Larry Jurassic?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at it a little bit different in that I'm looking more in the future with the possibilities of town of Onalaska and the city of Onalaska someday being more of a joint union. This is just one more aspect to it. Any information that we can get, that's fine.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else? Kathy, did you want to say anything?
I was just going to say, I think it's worth looking into, us agreeing to hire somebody to take a look at it and do the proposal and put it all together doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to do it. I do have concerns about the timeline as well, just knowing that they have much more of an immediate need than we do. But long-term, I would love to be able to find a solution to work with our neighbors.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll just add too, the timing of this, quite frankly, of the study itself actually could work out well. We've recently done our own staffing and facility study. Holman has done their own study as well too. So we have some really recent data that may be beneficial to know what each department is currently doing and what the capacities are. And so when they look at what form of services might we be able to cooperate on, share, whatever the case might be, having that recent information might actually lend very well to this particular study. So just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Rick, can you reiterate, the total cost of the study is approximately $50,000 and the Village of Holman has passed they approved their amount, they approved.
Correct. They approved $12,500.
Okay. Yes. Has the town of Holland passed theirs yet?
My understanding is that it's on their agenda for their upcoming meeting, that they're going to approve it, but I don't know if it's officially been done yet.
But we anticipate that they'll approve $12,500.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So if the council wants to move forward, we'll need to know we need to know if you want to move forward or if you want to think about it for another month or whatever. And then if you do want to move forward, we would have to direct Sabrina to do a budget resolution so that we could determine where the money was coming from. So that's what we need out of this conversation. We'll go to Jim Benash first, since you spoke first last time. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to know first what the other towns and villages are going to pay towards the study before I would commit to this. I think it's a good idea. The more information you have, the better you can make a decision on what's the best way to go. But I think I'd like to know what they're going to contribute before I would commit to anything this evening.
The Village of Holman it has already approved $15,500 or $12,500, and we expect the town of Holland to do the same. The town of Onalaska is waiting to see what we do.
Correct.
Because if we're not going to do it, because they contract with us for service. So if we aren't interested in this, then their opinion doesn't play into it because they're paying us for their service. So they're just waiting to see how we handle this.
I'd like them to confirm it first. I mean, I'm interested in doing this. I think the more information you have, the better informed you are, the better decisions you can make, but it's not inked. So until it is, I think that's what we should wait on.
Okay, thank you. Stephen Knott?
Yeah, similar to what Jim just said here. I'm for looking to see if we can get efficiencies. I just want to wait until we see if town of Holland does indeed approve the 12,500, as well as confirm what the township of town of Onalaska is willing to do. Because I do think they need to contribute something, and I don't want us to be on the hook for $25,000 is what I guess where I'm getting at. So.
I guess my response to that is that I think the better course of action at that point would be knowing who the players are to decide how much you would be willing to pay and just have that be a condition of approval. Or what, make your approval condition upon whatever it is, that the other people approve it or.
All right. Make sure.
Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Mayor. So I do see that the Town of Holland meets tomorrow night, Wednesday, the 14th at 6:30 PM. And under Fire Department, item A, discussion and possible action to approve a joint cooperative fire services feasibility study. So we'll know at least, and I think I certainly agree with the mayor. The thing is, the only situation is that if, I don't think we all want to be in a playing game. Well, Onalaska does it, then yeah. And it's like, I think we just need to make a decision, like the mayor said, come up with the max that we would be willing to, because someone's got to stop, someone's got to say boo and go. Or else we'll be sitting here a month from now and we won't have an answer, so.
Yeah, and I mean, and if it's 12,500 or whatever it was, then if it's 1/4, then.
Well, I guess the other thing that if I may add, I know typically when we have joint municipal court and such, that's based on, the expenses is based more on, is it the tickets or is it tickets that are issued, Sabrina? How the expenses are divvied up?
Excuse me. It is based on how many citations are not dismissed.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I mean, just to be fair, I don't know whether it's fair to expect each of us to just, take that a dollar amount divided by 4, considering our size and our tax base compared to others, but I'm just throwing that out there. I haven't decided whether it is fair or not, but I'm just throwing that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alder Jurassic?
Yes, is it feasible for us to go ahead and direct the city treasurer to go ahead and make up documentation to show us what it'd be like at the 12.5? So that next month, when we get together, we can go ahead and vote on it right then, instead of doing it another month later. And it'll be springtime before we get around to voting on it, so.
Okay, let's see. Let's go to people that haven't had their second turn yet. So Mike Milky?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess when I'm thinking about this, I would be comfortable doing the 12,500 and putting it out there and saying, hey, we're willing to match Holman and Holland and kind of see where the town of Onalaska goes. And obviously they might not be willing to contribute that the same amount. So maybe we go back with these other municipalities and talk to them, but I would be comfortable matching what the other folks have done. I guess that's just my opinion on this.
Thank you. Kathy, did you want to say something?
I would agree with Mike. I actually was going to propose that we cover 70% of the difference, of 17,000 if Onalaska, the town of Onalaska, and just knowing that they have less resources available than we do. But I would be okay with going with at 12,000 or 12.5.
Okay, thank you. Okay, final round then. This is round 3. Okay, anybody want to make any final comments? Kathy?
Of course, that would be contingent on everybody else joining in.
That could be part of the motion if someone wanted to make a motion. Or we can make no motion and just go on to the next item, which would be the consent agenda.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for the city of Onalaska to contribute the 12,500 in contingent of the town of Onalaska contributing the same. And I guess that'll be my motion.
I second it.
Can-
Okay,
Can I make a suggestion? Can it be that all the municipalities contribute the same, so we don't single out one particular one, so?
All right, yes. Let me retract my previous motion. I'll make a new one. So I'll make a motion for the city of Onalaska to contribute the 12,500 in connection with the other three municipalities to match of basically a 25% share for each.
Second.
okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mike Milky. It's been seconded by Larry Jurassic, that the city of Onalaska move forward with $12,500 toward the, get the wording, shared fire service study in cooperation with the Village of Holmen, the Town of Holland, and the Town of Onalaska, with the understanding that each of the other three municipalities would pay a matching at 25%. Is there further discussion on that motion? Jim Benash?
The only thing I'd have about that is if they don't agree to do that, you're going to have to come back here again. So that's the issue you're going to face. And that's why I would prefer that we have that in place before we go ahead and commit. So we're going to have to do it again if they don't cooperate.
Nope. Larry Jurassic?
We're not locking in funds right now or next month, correct? With this amendment, we're just telling her to get the paperwork ready for a possibility of next month locking it in.
Sabrina would have to bring forward a budget amendment for the following month
Right.
to get the money.
Yep. Okay.
We'd just be directing her to do it, Rick.
Yeah, and I just so we're clear, I mean, we are indicating to the other municipalities that we're willing to do this. So while we may not have the resolution today, we are letting them know that this is what we're willing to do. So I just want to make sure we understand that that's what the intent is. Yep.
Okay, Mike?
Last thing. So, I mean, if the town of Onalaska were to come back and say no, yes, Alder Nash, we are going to have to rehash this, but I think to put it out there and show our good faith that we want to do the study with them to contribute to our previous fire study we done, I think is beneficial. But I do understand there is a risk that they might not agree to that based on their size and their shared agreement with us. But I guess I'm comfortable making this for now and seeing if it were, I mean, if it were to have to change, then obviously we'll have another conversation.
And then we'll have more information too about what went wrong about it.
Yep.
Okay, I think I'm good with that. Any more comments or questions? Chief, did you want to add anything? All right, the motion on the floor then is to move forward with the $12,500 contribution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is recommendation for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, boards, and officials. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business on the non-consent agenda. Are there any items the councilors would like removed from the consent agenda? Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. Item under administrative, item D.
Thank you. Are there any other items the councilors would like removed from the consent agenda? Not seeing or hearing any, would someone like to make a motion regarding the disposition of the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Kathy Lohendorf. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Now, item 8, recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. There was one under administrative, item D, which is approval of the Class B malt beverage and liquor license application for Apple Onalaska Incorporated, doing business as Applebee's, Neighborhood Bar and Grill and IHOP located at 9364 State Road 16 from January 14th, 2026 to June 30th, 2026. I'll turn it over to you, Stephen. That's yours.
Do you want me? I
Oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, this item was brought up to administrative committee, of course, last week, and it did pass unanimously. And I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Mike Milky. Discussion? Diane Wolf?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just had a question because I didn't see any conversation at A and F last week in the minutes. I guess I'm looking to ask our city clerk, and I meant to ask you about this, but there's one more thing I forgot. So my apologies. So they are looking to, can I assume they do not have a license at this time? Or
They're operating under the pre-existing license right now. The license holder will relinquish their license at midnight tonight, assuming approval of the license.
my apologies. I've read this 10 times and I thought of one thing, TGI Fridays. I could not get that out of my head. Gosh, it's been a long year already. My apologies. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. I should have called you. Anyway, my apologies. Goodness.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Joanne, is it because they added IHOP to it now? That makes a difference?
New ownership took over, so the new owners need to apply for their own alcohol license.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item 9, Finance Committee, which is Mike Milky, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this is a list of the total monies expended since our last common council meeting dated December 9th, 2025. The total amount is $16,007,715.20. I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike Milky. It's been seconded by Kathy Lohendorf. Is there any discussion? Mike?
Yep, we're talking to Sabrina, and I'm just going to let her have the floor. This is a little bit higher amount than we normally see, so I was just going to let her explain a little bit on that.
Thank you. So the reason for the increase, we are collecting tax payments for all the taxing jurisdictions. So unfortunately, we don't get to keep all those dollars. We have collected 41.25% through the month of December, compared to 32.88% in 2024. So we're actually ahead of where we were last year. So in this $16 million, $3.4 million is a check written to the County of La Crosse, $807,190 to the School District of Holmen, a nice $10,196,866 check to the School District of Onalaska, and $1,236,013 to Western Technical College. So those checks have been written and will go out. These ones we have someone deliver those in person instead of sending it in the mail. So those will go out this week.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sabrina. Okay. Motion, did we vote? I don't think we did. Okay, motion on the floor is to approve the vouchers. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. Okay, item 10, Board of Public Works. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Mayor. Item 10, Board of Public Works and Utilities. Item A, discussion on Grandview Boulevard water main leak repair alternatives. I'm going to turn this over to Jared.
Thank you. As we discussed at the Board of Public Works on December 23rd, we had a water main leak appear through our system on Grandview Boulevard. We looked at that day, tried to ascertain where it was at, but did not come out of the ground. Staff actually came in on December 24th, Christmas Eve, and we're in for approximately a 10-hour day. Got the leak fixed. I do have the presentation. Some of those that are in your packet tonight are actually videos. If you're at Board of Public Works, they They have a little more gravity if you see the video, but they are a pretty telling situation out there. We did have this project in our 5-year capital improvement plan because we knew that we had some problems and water leaks out there. Once we got down to the pipe and fixed it, got the pipe out of the ground, looked at some different things out there, between staff and the engineering department really came to the conclusion we really need to fix this now. It's not a fix later item. We are looking at the possibility, if we do secure funding to move forward with this project, of getting it bid out this January, opening bids the day of the next council meeting, February 9th, and bringing them forward right to the council meeting so we could get a possible repair accomplished in the end of March and April, and then repair the street in May and June. There is approximately, in the estimated cost for the project that we put together, we have about 625 feet of main to replace in there. We will be cutting half the street out, taking the main out, putting in a temporary main to service those residents while we replace the main, because it is in a limestone area, shale. The previous pipe was laid back in that ditch and the material was put back on it. So that is part of our problems that we're having in this area. But due to the existing pipe in that area, we want to put it back in the same spot and use a different bedding material, put a new pipe in. It'd be easier than trying to dig in a new pipe through the existing shale that's out there. So it'll be a cheaper alternative. We did run a construction estimate on this. We did come up with an estimated cost of $345,000 to fix this area. We did have another $80,000 in there if we were going to do it as an emergency and try and temporarily repair it. But I think we've got a plan where we would not need that temporary repair. We would replace it with some recycled asphalt, pack it in and keep track of it until we get it paved. With that, like I said, this is a project we did outline for future. We're just moving it up because of what we found when we staff was out on Christmas Eve. So I guess with that, I'd open up for any questions and then discussion from Sabrina and others on the financing.
Okay, we'll start first with the questions. Stephen Knott?
I'm sorry, can you say the cost amount? Did I hear
$345,000.
300 and say it again one more time?
$345,000. 345,000.00.
Jared, does that include fixing the road?
That includes fixing
We
the
don't want
road.
the gravel alternative.
Yeah. So a lot of times the street cost, we typically do a construction project, our general fund cost, but due to it being a repair that is needed because of the water main replacement, we put that cost as a water utility cost. So it's all a water utility cost. I'm hopeful that if we get the bids come in and we can find a contractor that fits in our schedule, I'm hopeful we're going to get it for less than what I've estimated. But we've conservatively estimated it because of our time frame that we're inducing the work and some of the extra work that we're going to be outlining. It's just more expensive than it would be when you rip up the whole road and replace everything like we do in our normal construction projects.
Okay, any other questions? Mike?
So a quick question, Jared, thank you, Mayor. So we said 625 feet. So if we replace that, we're comfortable with the remaining where we're connecting to, like that all looks good. I guess I'm just curious when that was all probably put in this around the same time.
Yep. No, that's a great question. This is the area where we have the highest concentration of the rock and the shale. So we are hopeful that once we get, we're hoping that maybe we would not even have to do the whole 625 feet. But that's our best estimate at this time. Once we get going down the hill, the soils are different. We may have a little bit more on the top of the hill, but we have had water leaks in this area in the past and have found the same material in this area. We haven't had any problems anywhere else. So we're hopeful that we would not need any more work at this time.
And then do we have like an estimation on the life cycle of something like this for being replaced?
Typically, a water main that we put in the city, we expect 75 to 100 years of service life. This was put in 1986.
Okay, well,
So, and if the video, there's a hole the size of a golf ball that's leaking out of the pipe in the video that I could show you if you'd like, but we displayed it at Board of Public Works. And there's 2 pictures of deterioration. We actually took part of the pipe out. And when we washed it off with our Vector truck with the pressure hose, it's like a car wash hose. It's got pressure like that. We were actually flaking the pipe off as we were washing it off. Now it's a high pressure hose, but it looks like the pictures when you run the video and you look at the pictures, it looks like it's the pipe's been multiple spots. It's just not like one spot. It's got a lot of deterioration in it.
Okay, thank you, Jared.
Okay, any other questions? Kathy?
Can you share the name of the artist of the amazing drawing on page 14?
So I do not know which resident delivered that, but, so our crew was out there, started at 6 a.m. on Christmas Eve, and they got the water back on about 2 o'clock and got out of there about 4 o'clock. Had multiple people stop and say thank you. And we had a family that stopped toward the end and delivered cookies and that artist drawing that we put in there. It's great to see the public really, appreciate the work for the staff that was out there on Christmas Eve. So I just wanted to put it in there because we don't get that very often. So I wanted to highlight that fact. And the artistry is really good too. If you look at the different items that are on the picture, it's well thought out.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for taking care of it right away and not trying to postpone it till after the holiday. I'm sure the residents appreciated it.
Okay, Stephen?
So, I think this is a must do personally, and it's not nor
Yeah.
much as I'm looking forward to a $345,000 expense. Now my question is, what are our options to pay for it?
Well, Finance Director Sabrina Steger, why don't you give us some options?
So there are a few different options. Probably the quickest, easiest option would be to apply for a state trust fund loan for the water utility. That would be at about an interest rate of 5% is their current rates. We would do it likely over 5 years. So that would be the easiest, quickest option. There's another option of amending the capital improvement budget. We would have to amend it and have a public hearing in February during Board of Public Works. So we would be amending very quickly to get that out the door because we have to have a 15-day notice for the public hearing in February and then bring it to council the following week to approve. And this is the one piece I don't know. I don't know if we can approve the CIP and approve the bonding in the same month. I have to confirm that with Bayard, but that is an option that we could do that. It could delay the work that Jared needs done because we wouldn't have the bonding completed until April. So there are some restrictions on when you can spend the money since we haven't bonded for it yet. There is one third option would be that the general fund could borrow money to the utility. And I did discuss this with our city attorney and our city administrator. Amanda and I wouldn't feel fully comfortable with writing the agreement. We'd want to hire outside counsel to make sure they agreed with the arrangement between the general fund and the utility. So we would likely contract out. I don't know how much that would cost. We would probably write an agreement, contract out to have someone else look at it to make sure the terms seemed appropriate. And then we could use reserves from the general fund and borrow that to the utility. So that is option 3.
Okay, Stephen, Knott?
Leads me to 2 follow-on questions. Which of those options would be the quickest to repair and which of those options would be the least expensive?
It's dependent. I think the quickest option, like I mentioned, is the state trust fund loan. It's the cleanest option. We would have an agreement with the state. I could apply for it tomorrow. And Jared could get moving on his project, and we would probably have the funds within 60 days. Correct, 5% interest.
And what would be the total amount of the loan versus paid off? We're borrowing 345, we're gonna owe more than that at 5%.
Right. I didn't run those numbers. I definitely could run them. It may be around, I would have to run the numbers. I don't want to even estimate. Borrowing with the mortgage revenue bond, we would be at a lower interest rate than borrowing with the state trust fund loan. I can't estimate what that is at this point in time. I know Bayard's going to come forward next month with an approximate percentage, but they haven't sent that to me yet. But it would likely be less than 5%.
But it would be for a longer term.
Yeah.
Correct. It would be for a longer term, likely the 20 years, as opposed to 5. And we could go longer with the state trust fund loan. But once you get over 6 years, it's at 5.5%. And then if you go over 10 years, it's at 6.25. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend 5 years.
I have one question. Is there insufficient cash reserves in the water utility fund to cover that?
The audit report, Sabrina probably had over $1 million in the cash reserves, but if we can finance it and not use the cash reserves, I think it puts us in a better position, especially for the mortgage revenue bond, because the mortgage revenue bond, we have bond covenants, so we have to have bond coverage. So there's a variety of reasons to keep that
Yeah.
in our cash reserves.
Right, especially with having to do the rate study coming up.
The Moody's study, the
Yeah.
bond coverage and a variety of those financial aspects directly impact our Moody's rating on the mortgage revenue bonds. So
Totally agree. Okay, Sabrina first and then Mike.
And we also have other bond covenants on our current bonding where we have to have certain reserves in the general fund, in the water utility. And I just wouldn't feel comfortable using it out of reserves in the water utility.
Okay, it was a legitimate question though.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess my question would be, so if we were to take this money and borrow it from the general fund, one of the biggest negatives to us is our interest income will be less because of that, correct?
Yes, but we would charge the utility interest for borrowing money from the general fund.
So it sounds like that's not your top choice.
I'm not going to tell you what my top choice is.
Okay, I guess, I mean,
I feel comfortable with any option.
okay.
I
And just, when
Or an option I didn't.
some
feel-
things I always heard as well, you've got over $10 million in your general fund reserves. Why, like that's money the taxpayers have put in there. Like this seems like an emergency kind of situation where it would be beneficial to use that. But I do understand that obviously, interest income is something that we have used. Obviously, we don't know what that'll be. This last year was really good. So I'm just wondering if that would be a good method, just in good faith to our residents as well. So that's where I bring that forward as a question. Thank you.
And just to be clear, I am not opposed to that option whatsoever. It would provide the opportunity for the water utility to move forward quickly, like option 1.
Mhm.
And then the interest would be paid back to the general fund. It's just the logistics of it, finding outside counsel to review it, bringing it back.
Sure. So just
As the quickest option is the state trust fund loan.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, Kathy and then Stephen.
Do we have the ability with the state financing, if we were to go that route, would we have the ability to pay that back early or are we obligated? to 5
Absolutely.
years? Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Stephen?
Is there an option 4 where maybe we take some from our interest-bearing surplus funds and then take out the quick loan, I guess, maybe they get it done fast with the remainder? You know, maybe do I'm just throwing a number out there, $150,000 from our surplus funds, which would reduce that 5-year loan down substantially.
That is also an option. Mhm.
I think the overburden of the paperwork for doing everything it'd be better to do one or the other. If you're borrowing $1 million or a large, but I think this relative dollar amount of paperwork and everything, it'd be better to just choose one or the other.
It would reduce the amount of interest we're paying over 5 years, though, quite a bit too.
Then you got to hire outside counsel to review the agreement, and you got 2 agreements and 2 journal entries and more on the books. It's just.
And you know me, I'm probably arguably the most conservative about not touching those surplus funds, but on this is, like Mike said, this truly is a one-time emergency unforeseen expense, and that is kind of what they're there for. But I'm also uncomfortable reducing them $345,000 because, you know, we're going to be having to hit them with other things, hopefully not anywhere near this big later in the year, I'm sure.
Okay, let's let Amanda step in.
I just want a point of clarification to make sure that we're all on the same page. So Steve, are you proposing we do like 2 different options where we do a loan to ourselves and we do the state trust fund loan, or you're saying we take a small amount of the reserves, the 1 million?
I'm saying taking out a small amount of reserves.
Okay.
Or like 150K and then taking out the loan on the rest.
Okay.
Out of the water utility. I misunderstood that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, so it should be cash quick, real quick either way, because we own the 150.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine.
Okay, let's go to Sabrina because she's the finance person to have her respond to that.
First off, to answer your question on the interest, it would be about $45,000. $45,634 in interest.
For the 345.
Correct. If we did 5% with the state trust fund loan. I'm kind of in the same boat as Jared. I would do it. We could definitely have 2 agreements. It's cleaner if we just do one.
But are you okay? That's not what he proposed. Sorry, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. He's saying we take $145,000 out of the utility reserves.
Oh, not the general fund.
Not the
reserve.
general fund reserves. So some amount of money out of the utility reserves, and then we would do the state trust fund loan.
Okay.
And I was saying out of our surplus funds and then a state loan to get it done quick. What am I missing?
Okay.
Are we talking in circles?
2 surplus funds.
Yeah.
We have the general fund surplus reserves, and we have the water utilities. Which one are you talking about?
General.
Okay, then we would need 2 agreements to,
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Like-
different.
that's a loan. We could, because one can't pay for the other.
I
Like
see.
we would have to loan them the money
Okay.
legally.
Okay, I think Rick wants to say something.
And I was going to say what Amanda just said. I think there was some confusion that coming out of our general fund, that's not something we can pay to the utilities other than
Yes.
through a loan option. So again, I think it's been clarified, so we're good.
Yeah, the water utility money is completely separate. That's what's kind of creating the discussion, I guess. Okay, any other discussion? So I think we're all in agreement that we want to move forward. We agree this is urgent. We don't want the pipes to keep breaking.
Mayor, can I ask one more question?
Sure, of course you can.
Sabrina, can you tell us what our interest-bearing accounts, what is that interest rate as of today? Do you know?
Give me 1 second. It's right around 5. It's just under 5%.
Is it pretty much like a wash either way for
Mhm.
interest rate? Okay.
Correct.
So
You need a motion.
Yeah, we should get a motion on the floor or something at this point of it. Right? Okay, Jim Benesh?
Just quickly, the 3 things that you brought up, could you kind of go over them again, just quickly?
Yeah.
And then make a motion after that and try to hear what this is.
Okay,
Okay. Option 1 would be to borrow the $345,000 from the state trust fund. quickest, easiest way to move forward. Option 2 would be that we would amend our CIP budget and we would borrow with the mortgage revenue bond. And we would have to come back, do another public hearing, reapprove the CIP budget, potentially at a likely at a lower interest rate than 5%. And then option 3 would be that the general fund would borrow the money to the water utility, and we would hire outside counsel to prepare that agreement.
Is option 2 for 5 years also?
Option 2 would be over 20 years.
Yep.
So this, I would propose if we did option 3, that we would do that over 5 years as well.
So, yeah, so the state trust fund loan would likely be around 5% for 5 years. And if we do it through the CIP budget, it would be a lower interest rate, which has been around 3. But we don't know for sure, but it would be for 20 years.
But it would
Correct.
take longer to do.
Yeah, and the timeline isn't going to work for Jared, probably. Yep, go ahead, Stephen.
So I know you said you have about $1 million in the water utility surplus, but you need to keep a certain amount. Would 145 put you in danger of that?
I would not go into that cash reserve because that's you need so many for the rating and different things. We need so many days of cash on hand for operating. And I think we'd be getting to the point that we would, the more cash days on hand, the better we score. So it's, you can equate it to your 10 million that you have in the undesignated reserve account in the general fund. I don't feel comfortable for going into that.
Well,
Okay, Kathy.
If we were to borrow from or borrow to the water utility from the general fund, would that impact our Moody's rating as well?
I don't believe so. I believe I could easily explain that to Moody's in our call, that we are borrowing it to our utility. And we would be taking, we wouldn't be taking a large amount from the reserves, and we will likely be adding to our reserves this year. So that I wouldn't believe that would affect our rating.
I'm going to make a motion that I'll move that we allocate on loan from the general fund $345,000 to the water utility to take care of this issue.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Diane Wolf to allocate money from the general fund to the water utility in the amount of $345,000 to pay for the repair. Amanda?
I would like a backup plan. So I would like you to say that that's your first choice, but if we find that that's not legal, that you have a second choice. I have some concerns that while accounting principles might let us do this, the state of Wisconsin may not.
All right, then my initial motion, I'll also update with, if that fails to be legal, then I would like to go to the state trust fund loan to get this done quickly.
Okay.
And I'm good with that for my second.
Okay, so it is a 2-part motion with the first part,
Great.
with the first choice being to borrow the money from the general fund to the water utility. If that is appropriate, if that fails, then to do the state trust fund loan. Okay, is everyone comfortable with understanding what the motion is? It is a 2-part motion with the finance director and the city attorney to work out if phase 1 is applicable. Is our shared understanding? Everyone is nodding their head yes. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, the motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Okay, item 11, IT Director Report. Joe.
Hello, I just want to take a minute to give you guys a little bit of an update of everything that we've kind of been through. I'm not going to read through this whole thing just to save some time, but I just want to like highlight how important it was for the entire staff to help out with these projects. We've got the ERP system that went in, not just department heads, but the entire staff had different pieces to do with that project, as well as our timekeeping system. We did the Microsoft 365 project this year, which again touched everybody, including yourselves, with the email changes and things like that, and just people being able to like come in, set up time to be helped. Same thing happened with Duo. Not everybody could do that on their own. Everybody was very flexible, as well as your generosity in funding some of these projects above and beyond what was in the budget. So I just want to take a minute to thank you guys for that as well. And then also kind of give you an idea of some of the projects that we have going on this year. We're going to be replacing our phone system. It's no longer supported as of December 31st last year. So that is currently in the RFP process. We've received 16 responses and we're going through those right now. Hopefully setting up some interviews here in the next couple of weeks. The other major project we have for this year is going to be upgrading our internet connection. Currently, we use Spectrum for our internet. We will be moving over to WiskNet, which should save us about $4,000 to $6,000 a year in operating costs for our internet. And that will also allow us to go from a 1 gig connection to however much the city needs, basically future-proofing us for any additional bandwidth needs that we need. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alder Wolf?
Sorry, if I could just add to our IT director's input. I think I was appointed to the Technology Advisory Committee in 2003. And then Mayor Bielecki, Jim Bielecki had said, if you don't know anything about computers and stuff, you're about to learn. I thought, okay. I remember that advisory committee advocated strongly for a number of years to have a dedicated IT person. We had a company and they were literally starved for dollars for many, many years. I think Joe might be our third person for IT. And he, in my opinion, he's been a breath of fresh air, always looking at value versus cost versus what we need. And I won't be here this next budget year, but I'm very hopeful that as far as the staffing of IT, I know Joe came in his first year here, and then budget came up, and at a budget level, we talked about, would IT need some additional help? And I thought he was very honest and forthcoming. And I kind of read him right at the very beginning. He said, I'd like to be here a full year, kind of get a feel of what it is that's needed, what I need to catch up on. Before he just said, yeah, I'll take another person. He could have advocated for that, but he really wanted to make sure that, was that the right move? I'm just hopeful that the next council will certainly, our city administrator will take a hard look at the very smallness of IT and the amount of work that they do, like so many other departments do, and at least give it serious consideration for some possible internal help. Thank you, Your Honor. But thank you, Joe. You've been a pleasure to work with.
Thank you, Alder Wolf. Okay, next up, City Attorney Report. I'll turn it over to you, Amanda.
I have a lot of them.
Well, do you want me to read it for you? Item A, presentation on state and local government compliance under the 2024 Department of Justice rule for web and mobile app accessibility.
Give me just a second to get my PowerPoint up.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Maybe.
I would just ask our city attorney, Amanda Jackson, to speak just a little slower because you are in a spot where at least I have to read everything because it's one garble, not your fault.
You have the handout too, though.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, that, yes. It's in your box.
Move the caption out of the way.
I cleaned all this stuff out at.
You didn't get one. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. I will try to talk slow.
A little bit.
So I want to caveat this presentation with, I am not an expert in this, and nobody at the City of Onalaska is an expert in this. I don't even know that we could say many of us are even moderately knowledgeable in some of this. And I would also like to give a shout out to the City of Middleton Communications Director, who did a very similar PowerPoint and was kind enough to share it with us. So back in 2024, unbeknownst perhaps to many municipalities, the Department of Justice passed a final rule updating regulations under Title II of the ADA. So Title II of the ADA is the part of the ADA that makes us have to have accessibility for people with disabilities. So when you think of stuff we often think of it in the sense of a building, right? We need our walkways to be so wide. We need door swinging radiuses to be, so great for wheelchair accessibility. We need to have all of our signs that have wayfinding, have braille. They need to be at a very specific height on the wall. These are all ADA accessibility requirements under Title II. The DOJ has expanded those types of what are called technical standards into the world of the World Wide Web and basically digital assets, as they call them. So prior to this 2024 rule, we did not have a standard that we had to comply with. And so under the rule, they adopted what is called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which was something that already existed, version 2.1 level AA. And so that is what we will now have to meet moving forward. And I'll talk about one in a little bit. So those guidelines came out in 1999. They are technical standards that create digital accessibility for people with disabilities. They're broken down into 3 levels: A, which is the lowest level; AA, which is kind of the middle level; and AAA, which is the strongest level. And quite frankly, my understanding is it's near impossible to be AAA. We have to meet that AA level, the mid-range that represents strong accessibility, and it includes all of the level A requirements and the level AA requirements. So kind of like I said, how technical standards used to require your doorway width or how much room for wheelchair accessibility, these are technical standards for our digital footprint. There are also legal requirements, and failure to meet these technical standards could result in the city having legal action brought against us. So there's 4 basically foundational principles of these guidelines. So your information must be perceivable, presented in ways that all users can perceive, including text, images, and multimedia. It must be understandable. The content should be clear, predictable, and help users comprehend and navigate easily. It has to be operable. Your interface components must be usable for all, allowing navigation and interaction regardless of ability. And they must be robust. So the content needs to work reliably with current and future technologies, supporting diverse platforms and assistive tools. So I gave you just 2 pages, kind of 2 slides of some of the examples of what this includes. There are probably 6 pages of technical standards that we need to meet. So this is really just a sampling. So basically for all images, charts, anything that's not text, you have to have alternate text. So we do that on our website now, but admittedly not consistently. So that means that if you were to hover over a picture and you are somebody with visual impairments, there would have a program that would read the alternate text. So it might tell you that this is a picture of the City of Onalaska sunfish, or, whatever that may be. There has to be contrast minimums. So text and images must have a certain contrast ratio. Text has to be able to be resized up to 200% without negatively impacting the ability to read it or use the functions of the website. Unless images of text are necessary for presentation, we should really only use actual text. So a really good example of this is our really pretty newsletter. Rebecca puts together a beautiful digital newsletter with lots of images. Just think of like how that's something that we would need to fit into all these guidelines and how hard it's going to be. In many ages, I feel like what this is encouraging us is to take like 10 steps back to the Stone Age, because it's going to be so much harder to do really great visual graphics, videos, things like that. Keyboard functionality has to be operable. Like you have to be able to do everything you can via keyboard keys. So you have to be able to navigate a whole website via the keyboard keys. Links have to clearly describe its purpose. No longer can you just have a click here. It has to say, read more about, Kim Smith Mayor. Multiple ways, you have to provide more than one way to find a page within a website. Your headings have to be have a very clear structure. So if you've ever worked in like Word documents or any of those, you have to really use the built-in like heading structures, the H1, H2, H3, if you're familiar with those. Text spacing has to be adjustable. A few examples that aren't on here, but that we talked about in one of the many meetings I've been sitting in recently about this is, for instance, if you have a video on your website, you have to provide a narration of that video now. If you have captions that I've taken briefly off screen, your captions have to have an accuracy of 90%. And so now we have to look at how do we go back and do we edit our Zoom captions, to make sure that they're 90%. We also can't take them away. If you have a video and you're offering a meeting live, you have to have captions on there. And so there's an immense amount of work that needs to be done. So what content must comply? Our website, our mobile apps, so our public service app, basically, if we link to our payment site, any third-party integrations to our website and applications also have to comply. All of our social media content. The one break they did give us on our social media content is that we don't have to fix anything until the date. It's just whatever April 26, 2027, everything moving forward will have to. On the website, it's a little bit different. We're going to have to look at every single individual document and decide, does it have relevance after this compliance date? And if it does, so I'm going to pick on Katie, right? Her comprehensive plan, right, is a 15-year plan. So that entire document is going to have to comply with all of these accessibility requirements, even though it was done in 2024. And so we're going to have to go through not just the website for compliance, but all the documents on the website, every one of the forms for the clerks, for planning, all of those that are on the website, we're going to have to go through and make sure that they can be read by a digital reader and make sure they meet these requirements. Newsletters and other communications sent digitally. So if we're using like a constant contact type thing for the Park and Rec department, that has to comply. If we're using our alert system through the website, that will have to comply. Rave for emergency text messages, notifications, that will have to comply. Video and audio files, all our meeting recordings, any informational videos, any documents, images, videos, maps, or forms published online, everything in our agenda packet will have to comply, even if we didn't create it. So if Katie gets blueprints from a proposed development, we're going to have to make sure that they comply and that they have alt text if it's not something that can be readable. If you feel like I'm overwhelming you, I probably am. But this is very much how we feel about this. So they divided compliance into the size of population. So if you serve a population of 50,000 or more, you are required to come into compliance by April 24th of 2026. So this would be the state of Wisconsin, all of our counties, our larger public school districts and universities, and Wisconsin's 12 largest cities. So La Crosse should be tackling this right now. I did notice the other day that I was on Legistar and they now have accessible agendas and accessible minutes on their website, which tells me they're probably pretty deep into this. Entities that serve a population of less than 50,000 have until April 26th of 2027, which is basically every municipal entity not included in the first batch. So again, compliance means in addition to retroactively addressing the existing assets with a few exceptions, like I said, social media, because you don't often go back and look at social media posts from the past. They're not making us bring past into compliance, just moving forward. All website and digital files moving forward will have to comply. How do we do this? Our initial recommendation is that we think we need a consultant. We don't have staff that is knowledgeable enough in there, in this, or quite frankly, have the time and capability to take this on. What we would like to do is hire a consultant to audit our existing assets, create a transition plan, and then assist with training our web and social media users. This is a very rough estimate. We think this will likely cost between $25,000 to $30,000. Key staff, we would like to have in-depth training. So right now that's looking at, like that would be myself, Rebecca, and then likely possibly Grace or somebody at the Omni Center, given the volume of web, social media, and other digital use that the Omni Center has. We'd also like to consider recalibration of who our content creators are. So do we need as many people doing things on the website and on social media as we currently have, or will it be easier to scale that back to a handful of people who are highly trained in this? We're also, talking about, are there social media pages that perhaps could go away or we could consolidate, right? Just to reduce the burden a little bit. There may be third-party services that we may need to assist with this. I mean, a lot of this is unknown at this point, but I go back to thinking about trying to get our captions at 90% accuracy. I don't know if that's something we, are going to do in-house, or if we are able to find that there's a service that, could do that financially at a more beneficial amount. So I am not asking for money tonight, meaning I will be asking for money in the future, because we don't have a lot of time, to be quite blunt. We're going to have to get going with this, but we've been really trying to just get a rough idea how much this will even cost us before we could sit down with Sabrina and talk about where we're going to pay for it from. And it's sort of a hard thing to put a number on. Middleton was able to hire somebody for a similar amount, but I think they got a little bit lucky. There are companies that seem to do bits and pieces of it, but I don't know if there's somebody that does all of it. And so it's a bit of hitting a moving target. But I wanted to at least tell you what we know, and give you a chance to answer questions. I may or may not be able to answer them, and just let you know that this will definitely not be the first time you hear about this.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Larry Jurassic?
Thank you, Mayor. First thing that comes to mind is this is now statewide. So I'm assuming every city in the state is going to be in the same situation we are. So that company that specializes in this are going to be able to put their price up just about whatever they want and have to have it. Thank you, Mayor.
That's about right.
And the state is not kicking in any money for this corrections, right?
This is an unfunded mandate by the federal government.
Yep. Thank you.
My words.
All right, Stephen, nah.
Yeah, well, you took the words out of my mouth. So again, not, intent here isn't to execute the messenger. It's it, but boy, am I frustrated. We just spent a fairly good amount of money from our budget, taxpayer money, to update our website, with one of the main reasons being we wanted to make it ADA compliant. And then we have this unfunded mandate from the federal government saying, oh, well, now you got to do more. And the website hasn't even been active for that long. And what I'm hearing now is, based on this, it's already obsolete because of some folks in Washington, D.C.
Yes and no. I mean,
understand we meet some of it.
we do meet a lot of it on that side.
So I got a couple of questions here. Threefold. One is, can we ask for a clarification or ruling on some of these things? Like you even mentioned the sunfish. You know, if we have images that don't convey any official information, do we really need to have something on there that says this is a sunfish? You know, I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Of course, that might not have anything to do with Washington, D.C., but, you know, can we ask for a clarification on ruling on, are we only talking official information or conveying official information to the citizens as opposed to an image of City Hall, you know, or a sunfish? And then second is, yeah, you alluded to it, you know, we might have to start considering shutting down some of these social media, including Facebooks, with exception. My own mind would be, I mean, our emergency services, I think it benefits them a lot to be in communication with the citizenry, but, you know, a lot of these others, maybe we just get rid of it. And I don't like it, but it's cost versus benefit. And then, so these are things to consider in the future, I guess. And lastly, are there AI solutions to this, to where you can feed into it? Here's a video. What's it say?
That is something we have been looking into, even, you know, analyzing, like, is Teams better for its ability to transcribe as opposed to Zoom versus, you know, we also have Fireflies that transcribes our meeting, and, you know, how is their accuracy rate? So that is something we are looking into.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I think this was just for information to know. Mike Milkey?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, Amanda. You might not know the answer, but for something like this, obviously we have till April 26, 2027. We don't want to be going last minute for this. Do you have like an estimated timeline on what a project like this might take, just based on maybe like the Middleton research, just out of curiosity?
I think it's going to take the entire 15 months or whatever it is that we have to do it.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, we don't want to be last minute and April 25th, like, we're not ready yet. So I guess, yeah, I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right. Joint Municipal Court Exploration. Amanda.
Okay, so you may have heard about this via the media. And so I apologize if you feel like you're getting a little bit of information at the end. We got a call in December inquiring if we would be open to the conversation of exploring joining our joint municipal court with the City of La Crosse's municipal court. I think given everybody's budget constraints that anything is worth a conversation these days. Municipal courts are particularly tricky in that they're highly regulated through the state, and you can only make changes in an election year. And so our election years don't align. And so arguably we could never join courts. And so really, in order to even have the conversation of, is this something we're all interested in? Is it possible? We needed to align our terms. And so because La Crosse had a window that they could change their term to align with ours, they took it and they expedited it last week through their common council. And if you listened at all to their meeting, you know, really, they said much of what I'm saying now is really this was just one small step to even open a conversation, because without this, we couldn't even put into effect the possibility. And so that's really the only information I have, is that they align their term with ours so that we can sit down. Step one will probably be to delve into the finances, quite frankly. Look at our finances, look at their finances, And then once we have actual information, we'll bring it back for you. But again, in order to really do any of that, we had to align our terms, and it made the most sense for them to align their term with our term. So just to follow up, we could not actually join courts if we did want to pursue this until basically June of 2028, because judges are elected in April, but they don't take office. Municipal court judges don't take office as quickly as like a common council does, because there's a judges school they go to in May. So I think it's around the last week of May that their term actually begins. So that is the soonest date that we could even have a combined court, would be almost halfway through 2028.
Okay, questions on that? Alder.
So if we were to do this, am I interpreting this correctly in that it's possible for, if it's joint, that for an Onalaska resident to go before a judge that is elected by La Crosse residents and vice versa? Is that what I'm hearing?
If we did this, the judge would be elected by all residents. So much like right now, people in the village of Holman vote for our judge, people in the town of Shelby vote for our judge, people in West Salem vote for our judge. La Crosse would just be one more municipality that would vote for this judge.
But is it still here?
To be determined.
It would be one judge.
It would be one judge.
Judge.
For all of
by
the
the
participating,
Greater La Crosse region.
Yes.
the participating municipalities. Okay, Jim Benash?
One of the drawbacks I see is the wait time when you're in court. If you're going to put all these municipalities together and you've got people sitting there waiting their turn.
That assumes that we're putting all of them together. Again, La Crosse may keep a separate date and the rest may keep a separate date. I mean, this is sort of like, we could create whatever we wanted to create.
So you could have one day for certain municipalities, one day for another. It's an open book
An open book.
that hasn't been written.
All right, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. I just happened to be at City of La Crosse's council meeting last Thursday for many reasons. This didn't even dawn on me because I didn't read that far on the agenda. I just went there for a few other items. So I'll be honest, I was a little bit blindsided because I'm having people left and right and front and back of me saying, hey, what's going on with this? I'm like, I don't know, your guess is as good as mine. So I'll say that I didn't look very good. City of Onalaska didn't look very good, but I apologize that I didn't have any answers, but I had a feeling that it was going to be coming up soon. Yes, so my understanding is that someone has, she was the only person who applied like nomination process like we all go through as the elected officials in the area. And so, yeah, I mean, there were a number of questions asked, but yeah, it was, I don't remember if it was unanimous, but yeah, the greater number of people said yes. So the good news is that we have a lot of time to think about it. Mayor Kim and I were on council together when we first did the joint municipal court. And I think 20 some years later about that, I mean, I think it's been very successful. I think that we were kind of on the leading edge of kind of regional cooperation at that time. So, and I think I did hear them say in regard to Alder Benash's possible concern about wait time and such, I think they hold court once a week on a certain day or something. So obviously that, we could be the co-authors of this and we could make it work. The good thing is we have something established, and just making it possibly bigger. But again, I think it's good to have regional discussions. It might work, it may not work, but it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But I think it's something that we should consider. But again, with the taxpayers of Onalaska and the other current members who are current members with the Joint Muni Corp, that, benefits all and not just some. So thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this item? All right, we'll move on to the next one. Item C, policy change, removal of commenting from city Facebook pages and updates to policy 6.12 social media. Amanda.
Yeah, so I did do a memo on this, which you should have had in your agenda packet. The police department has asked for us to consider turning off public commenting from the city's Facebook pages. And so this is an idea that has been discussed off and on over, I'm going to say maybe the last year or 18 months. It is becoming more common. I think the most recent was Eau Claire did it in October. You'll find that on certain pages, especially the police department page, we are seeing an increase in sort of spam posts. And many of which actually target the people that have liked or commented on the post. Some of those are sales. We're also seeing an increase in, abusive and offensive comments or comments that are made really kind of to be inflammatory. In looking at, profiles, some of these comments aren't from people that live in Onalaska. Sometimes they don't even live in the United States or the state of Wisconsin. As a city, we don't really use Facebook comments as a way to engage with our citizens. I'm not going to say we don't ever do it, but it's pretty rare that we would engage in a dialogue via commenting. And so turning off comments doesn't really impact our ability to communicate with our citizenry. We've increased ways to connect via the website, that public service app, and most of our comments or concerns and questions come in that way or via phone calls. And so we don't feel like if we remove the comments, that it's really going to create a burden. You can still have a reaction to a post, and you can also still share a post that isn't impacted by this. So normally we would have brought a policy change forward to 6.12. However, when we pulled that out, we realized that social media, much like anything with IT in the digital world, moves very rapidly, and our policy has not been brought up to date. And so we didn't want to make a one-sentence change in what is a policy that needs to be completely rewritten. And so rather than bring a one-sentence change forward, what we're asking tonight is if you would, if you support our request to change and remove the commenting, that you do that by motion. And then we will rewrite policy 6.12 to make many other updates, and then we'll bring that back to you later this year.
Sure, looking for.
Mhm.
I move to that we remove commenting from the city Facebook pages and that we update policy 6.12 accordingly.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Stephen Knott, seconded by Larry Jurassic to remove the Facebook commenting and update the policy. Under discussion, let's go with Stephen Knott since he made the motion, and then Jim Benash
So,
next.
issue you got with these comments online, we've all seen it, is you got a combination of ease of access with an anonymity. And to me, this stuff is just virtual graffiti to a large extent. It's largely not productive, if not even outright counterproductive. There's still plenty of ways for citizens to reach out and get their opinions heard outside of commenting on Facebook. So.
Thank you. Jim Benash?
Now, this might be an opportunity right now, according to the DOJ rule, to just get rid of Facebook. I mean, you've already got the webpage. Why do you need Facebook? So this might be an opportunity to just go ahead and say, all right, let's remove one of our problems.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I'll go this way. So I'll go Mike, Milky, then Kathy, then Larry. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I did some research on this, and I was just looking at First Amendment rights, and basically, if we were to turn this off, we're not harming ourselves by doing this. Now, if we were to do content moderation, where we're taking comments off, there's numerous ways where you're allowed to do that, but it also can open up a kind of wormhole for interpretation on, well, why was that removed? And, there's numerous reasons why, but in my opinion, by turning off the comments, it kind of eliminates that gray area. And it also kind of protects us, in my opinion. So the only thing I'd like to add to this is kind of related to Alder Benash's comment. I do know a lot of people that use Facebook as their means of news, which can be considered, not everybody has, well, I'm going to leave it there, but I do think a lot of people do use it to keep up with the city rather than going to our website. I'm not disagreeing that, it's not an option to remove it, but I do see people out there that use it. In fact, I am on there using it. So just my 2 cents on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
I was actually going to agree. I think that, I don't know that getting rid of our social media completely is necessarily the best answer, but I think that there's also a significant amount of bot traffic out there that's happening, and we really don't have any control over who has access to leave those comments, and we don't need, potentially residents to see something that's a scam or something and fall for it and then potentially blame us or, our social media posts. So I think it's probably a good idea.
Thank you. Larry Jurassic?
Thank you, Mayor. The only question I have is there anybody on staff that does observe this for the purpose of a threat, whether it be against an individual or against the whole city? That's the only thing I'd want to keep it open and look at it, but I don't know, the police department or who would be doing that.
We can only remove comments for very limited reasons, to Mike's point. So it has to be like a direct threat. So that could be something that could be removed. If it was simply inflammatory, it could not. If it's sales that links to something else, we can. The problem is we don't have the staff time to monitor our social media pages around the clock. And so if somebody posts even a link to, a scam, we might catch it 4 hours later, 6 hours later, 24 hours later, just because we don't have the capacity to really manage these in the moment.
That's, I was just wondering if the police department does anything on that, but with our area here, but if you go to like Madison or someplace like that, they probably have it all the time. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Alder Wolf?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I know that Amanda sent out an email, a few years ago, and I'll paraphrase and I maybe add some stuff, but I know that legal does not prefer us to be communicating via Facebook. I think I stated that well. But I know there have been times on a rare occasion where it might be like snow removal or something, or just something that people have like a follow-up question to. And when no one from the city responds, and I certainly understand why, because you literally have to hire a full-time person to do like just all the social media. That's why some communities in the state of Wisconsin have one person who does like all the press releases, all social media. But is that the best way to spend our dollars? I don't think so. When I know there's a lot of need elsewhere. So I have been known on a rare occasion to respond to someone, but I make a point for legal purposes and for tracking purposes to, I'll say, I'll message you, and then I make a point every time, I promise. When the conversation is done, I take a picture of whatever, I do a screenshot, and then I send it to my email, my City Hall email, because I don't want anyone to take my phones from me. So I've been very diligent about that. But I do think that there is an occasion when people, they have a good follow-up question. So I'm just wondering if there could maybe be if we go this way, if there could maybe be just a standard canned response, about who to contact or something, like, if you know what I mean? It was kind of like the parade when it got canceled, and I've seen that terrible things of late with police and the critical things they say about police that, we're expecting the community to do their job. It's like one little tiny piece, right? But it's very unfortunate, but we'll always have keyboard warriors. That's just, but yeah, I certainly understand. My main concern though would be the Omni Center. I don't know. I would have a concern about, they're in the business to make money and how they communicate. So I would have a concern, but I guess I would let administration figure that out internally, working with people with the Omni Center. Yeah, that's one concern I have, because I know I follow all the pages, I see what's on, but yeah, I would certainly support this, but if with the caveat, if maybe there could just be some canned response or canned information about who to contact.
All of the Facebook pages do have their contact information on them. We did, like Dan and I did briefly talk about, Park and Rec is one where sometimes people do comment because they want more information. And so is it something where they end every post, at least for a while, with contact parkrec.info@onalaskawi.gov? So we'll look at stuff like that where we think it would be helpful.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions regarding the removal of the commenting from Facebook pages? That is what we're talking about here. Okay, the motion on the floor is to move forward with that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone who's opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward, Amanda. Okay, item 13, City Administrator Report. I'll turn it over to Rick for an update on various city projects, but first, he should include in his report what he did for lunch yesterday.
Indeed.
I don't see that I don't see it on the report, or I went to call you
There's a
out.
little snippet down there, so.
Do you know what he did yesterday?
Chamber of Commerce Forum, was that yesterday?
So I was invited along with the administrator from the city of Viroqua to attend the Chamber Forum. They hold that month, an event monthly. This particular topic was on city administrator, basically focusing around La Crosse city administrator. It was more of an informational session. And so myself and Nate Torres from Viroqua answered questions based on our experiences in our current roles. And then we had an advisor from the WCMA, which is a professional organization that deals primarily with administrators. She was there to speak more generally in regards to La Crosse specifically. So we had some questions that were asked of us by the moderator, Sam Shinta from the chamber, and then they opened it up to a few questions from the audience as well too. So I thought it went well. Mayor can speak if it did or didn't, but I thought it went well and had some good follow-up from individuals afterwards just to come and ask some questions as well. So it was a fun event. I was glad I was invited to do it. So
Is that the camera event?
say that again.
Is that the TV camera event?
Yes, that's the one that had my bad side when they took the picture. So
Suit. Be good.
thank you, Mayor. I'll go over the rest of it pretty quickly because we still have some business and it's getting a little late. Excuse me, just wanted to update, as we may have mentioned before, shared ride program, public transit met this evening, just started the conversation. We will be doing an RFP for our public transit. That contract ends in the end of 2026. And so that'll be coming in 2027. Lots more on that as well. There's also interest from the town of Onalaska to join the program. Joe already touched on the phone system previously, so I won't go over that again. Urban Alliance, I reported last month that I was attending a meeting in Waukesha on December 11th. It was a gathering of municipal leaders to talk about funding challenges and what things to do going forward. It was a great conversation. There was a lot of information that was talked about, things that were working, not working, and kind of where things are going to go. That was just meeting one of a multiple meetings that will occur. So as we get more information, I will be able to highlight a little bit more than I am tonight in regards to what that's all about and what the future of that looks like. This morning, an email came out that they are going to be delivering the pergola to the Dash Park expansion project. So 3rd Avenue may be shut down for a period of time tomorrow. Just a heads up in case you get any phone calls or hear anything about it. Just wanted you to be aware of that as well. Council handbook. As many of you know, staff have been working on revisions to the council handbook. It's been quite a task because there were a lot of changes to be made. And just wanted to let you know that the plan is to have a draft version out to you by the end of the month, and we'll start appearing on the agenda in February for discussion. So just kind of want to give you an update because I know some of you are aware that we've been looking at that for a while, and it just has been one of those projects that has been taking quite a bit. And I believe, Mayor, you already mentioned this as well too about next Tuesday from 11 to 2 regarding Chief Ashbeck. So hope to see you all there. And with the holidays, it was a little lighter event that happened for the past month. So that's what I have there.
Great, thank you for that. Item B is discussion and possible action regarding technology improvements for the council chambers and the funding options.
I will start with this and then turn it over to Joe. So as you all will recall, we did the demonstration here a while back, early December, with a very nice system. And so after having the demonstration, the company that gave us the demonstration was going to provide some estimates. Couple things to keep in mind. These estimates are just to give us an idea of what the cost might be if we proceed with this project. If we do proceed with this project, we will have to go out for RFP. And so that'll be the next step in the process. So what Joe's going to do is he's going to go over the different options that AMS has provided, what those costs are related to those particular options, and then what some funding options are for those options to move forward. What we would like to see tonight from council is one, decide if you want to move forward with the project. And if you do want to move forward with the project, is there a budget that you want to give us? Now, again, you're going to be getting, a bunch of information, some of it obviously for the first time with the estimates. So if we need to come back next month and do the same thing, we can. But if we move forward, we would like to see is one, do you want to move forward with the project? And two, what would be a budget for it? So we can start working on the RFP, get that ready to go out so we can move forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Joe to provide you with some additional information.
Welcome.
Hi. So I always joke with Rick that memos are the least favorite part of my job, and I got 3 of them tonight. So yeah. So basically we went and got quotes from AMS who put on that nice demo for you guys. I'll go over kind of the quotes, and if you have any questions at any point, interrupt me and ask me. I will tell you that we did get a 4th quote for a different system, not the system that we viewed. So there is an option in here too, where if you guys want to look at other systems, I would like you to be involved in seeing what another system would entail. I can tell you it's very similar to what we have right here. Not much of an advancement as far as these other things. So I'll start out with quote number 1. Was $218,000. That was kind of, I'll call it the Cadillac option. That's replacing everything. Microphones, displays, wiring, everything down to we're getting a brand new system from the bottom up. That was doing more than just the one video display. That would be doing video displays for 8 people, which would be basically all of you up here and Joanne. And then some other options for microphone, doing the wireless microphones that you guys saw for everyone else. And then department heads sitting at the front tables there would be sharing one microphone for every 2 so that we don't run into a situation where we're having to hand microphones all over and things like that. So that was quote number 1. Quote number 2 came in at $185,000. That was the Televix system that you guys saw. That was doing the one video display for Joanne, everybody else getting that wireless microphone. These tables, again, sharing one microphone for every 2 department heads at the tables. This option also includes replacing everything in that back room. And I will tell you that everything in that back room is kind of where the problem is now. So the Televix system is an entirely separate system on top of everything in that back room. Again, I won't go too far into like the details on all this. We did receive quote number 3, which was just for the Televix system and attempting, and I'm going to use that term, attempting to connect it to what we currently have. That option, the $90,000 option, does not fix the problems that we have in the back room. And it's not a guaranteed $90,000 option. There are pieces in that back room that as they try to tie the system in, we may have to replace certain other things. A conservative estimate for me would be like $140,000 to do all of that. Do you guys have any questions on any of the quotes at this point?
I have a question on option number 2. Does that include replacing, like they talked about the video and the speakers in the room?
That would be replacing the speakers. We wouldn't do those 2 speakers anymore.
Because we would have them on site.
Yep.
on-
So we would just do the 4 speakers in the back. It would be not the displays themselves, but the way they're controlled. There's a box on the back
Okay.
of each one. So giving us a little bit more flexibility with how we can do the displays up there. But
And then how would that affect room 112? Would it have any effect on room 112?
no effect on 112 at all.
Okay.
I will tell you guys, just as part of this memo, I included it, but we actually have a display that is bad in 112. So just to give you an idea, these were put in at about the same time. So we are kind of on borrowed time. I will say that these displays up here are a much more industrial type of display. In 112, they went with just a regular TV basically. So I'm not as concerned about these displays. In 112, after talking with Chuck, in the equipment replacement plan this year, we were going to put a couple of displays in the basement in the police training room. Working with Chuck the other day, kind of figuring out, is there a different way we can do that or a cheaper way? We're going to cut down on the number of displays down there so that we can fix room 112. And room 112, we're actually going to change to, if any of you have seen the setup up in the fire department, something like that. It'll be a 86-inch display on a cart. Then you'd be able to be flexible and move it around the room to wherever you need it. And it gives us the option to, if that room is being used for interviews, we could wheel that out into 140 for a meeting and just makes it a more flexible space. So back to this stuff, that middle quote gets us new equipment in the back room, changes the way that these displays are controlled. It does give us the more cameras and better cameras.
Okay. Stephen Knott.
Okay, so my enthusiasm for this project has been, I guess, changed a bit based on a $345,000 unforeseen expenditure today. So I'm wondering if, is it possible, I mean, your main concern right now, it sounds like a lot of it anyway, is the back room, that we can suffer through what we have for one more year with maybe getting the back room taken care of this year, and then go through the 27 budget process to figure out what we're going to do for the rest of it. Is that an option?
That could be an option, yes.
And what, you probably didn't get a quote or anything, but what does your gut say? I won't hold you to it on what it might be just to fix the back room this year.
It will be about 95 to 100,000.
Do you feel that everything would last in one more year and then we can just do this in the 27 budget process?
I was going to say, yes, I would be okay and think it would last another year. But as we have seen, the projector down in the police room has gone bad. So that's why we are replacing stuff down there. That actually happened. It's been bad for about almost a year. So that's why we put new projection down there in the equipment replacement. That display going out was an unknown. I mean, the other display could go out. One of these displays could go out. It's very unknown. If you want to talk about the money part of it, I did meet with Sabrina and we have what I think is a pretty creative way of funding this.
We've got some already allocated.
We've got 46,000 that was already approved in the capital improvement.
It's about another 50K if we were to just do the back room.
Correct. Sabrina.
Okay, before we get to the money part, does someone have a question about the breakdown of the quotes and what is and is not included? So let's go to Kathy first and then Mike.
I love that system so much. I'm just sticker shock, sorry. Well, you said there was a fourth option?
So we did get a quote for basically replacing that back room and the current Shure microphones with new Shure microphones came in at 172. To give you an idea, we spent, I think it was just under $100,000 on that room initially, just for the back room. And then there was another 26,000 added on about 5 years after to do some more upgrades. And I think it had to do with like being able to do the Zoom meetings during COVID and things like that. So there's, over 15 years or however many years that room's been in service, it's been about 126,000, I think is what it all added up to.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to Sabrina? Okay, Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. So when our Televic and AMS guys came in to do the presentation and they hooked up to our system, would that be the $90,000 option? Because, you know, that the day they came in, it was like, here's option one, and then it was like clear as day when we moved.
The $90,000 option would be just that system and attempting to connect it to that, but there's no guarantee that they can just plug it into that and it will work. In my experience, we are probably going to be replacing half of what's in there anyways, just to make all that work.
I guess my question though is like, so when they came and did their original, like initial presentation, they weren't hooked up at all.
They were not hooked up to that at all.
Okay, so that was just demo without that.
Correct.
Okay.
So we lose the recording ability and while you could hear it back there, it wasn't as loud as what it would need to be. So it wasn't hooked into our overhead audio. It wasn't hooked into the displays. There's a little control panel right there. That thing, if we did a Televic system, like there's microphone controls and things like that that have to be programmed in. That system might be too old to handle something that's newer technology.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Just curious.
yep.
Okay, then. All right, Sabrina?
Joe and I did meet and we discussed how to fund this. We did approve $46,300 in the CIP budget to pay for fixing this room. Obviously, that's not enough. We do have some money set aside in the equipment replacement fund, and this money was set aside before I came to the city. So there are some reserves set aside. There's some set aside for computer, hardware, software, an annual hardware sinking fund, disaster recovery. I would not touch any of those three funds. I think we should keep those just kind of a rainy day fund. There's 95,800 in computer hardware software, just over 40,000 in the annual hardware sinking fund, and then 15,000 in this disaster recovery fund, which would cover our insurance premium if something would go wrong. There's $39,390 in a Tyler software fund. Obviously, we just moved to BSNA, so I would feel comfortable using that $39,000 out of the reserves and equipment replacement. Actually, I would come forward even if you chose not to go that route to move that money into the undesignated reserves since we've gone to a new program, a new system. And then lastly, there's $88,586 in an additional hardware software account in the equipment replacement fund. So I believe we could move both of those, use the funds in both of those to help pay for this cost. As well as there's 18,500 in the general fund that's set aside for IT software. So I think we could even use that as well.
So that covers the 185.
Correct.
Okay, Jim Benash?
From what I understand now, we really got to do something about this other room. And the presentation that they made really would bring us into the 21st century. It seems like option two, if we use the funds that Sabrina says are available, would get us where we need to be.
Correct. Yep.
Didn't this have some kind of transcription software that they offered as well? Am I remembering that correctly?
Right.
I'm wondering if this maybe could help with our long-term ADA compliance concerns.
Possibly. One thing with this new system is it does tie in with Zoom and Teams, and there's several other programs out there that it'll work with for transcription. So yes, there is a possibility.
Sure.
However, it kind of dictates what we use to record our meeting is usually what would be doing any kind of dictation like that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Stephen Knott?
Yeah, I agree with Jim that option 2 is probably what makes most sense for us, at least from my perspective. However, I'm still really uncomfortable with spending a lot of some of these surplus funds out after we just, again, tapped 345,000. I mean, we're talking about going $500,000 now if we pay for all this at once. So I personally would be in support of fixing the big problem now and then taking the rest of this up to try to get to option 2 during the 2027 budget process, which is really the right way to be doing this anyway for finances. We've been, I think, starting to skirt around getting outside of our normal budget processes quite a bit in the last, 6 to 12 months anyway. So yeah, I agree. The big problem is that room. And I say, let's fix that. We've certainly got funds to do that with the 46K already committed through the regular budget process and some of the funds mentioned by Sabrina. And let's take on the rest of this in 2027 budget process. We'll get through this with what we have. We're functioning right now. It won't hurt us for another year. So.
Joe, I have a question. I mean, don't we usually especially for a project this big, get quotes from more than one vendor, or is there limited vendors with this specialized application? Seems like
So-
there should be more than one vendor that we have quotes from.
Correct. We would be doing this as an RFP.
Okay.
One thing we would want to know is, did you guys like that Televix system? I did a demo of the Shure system. Unfortunately, I don't know if we'd be able to get somebody to do another demo in person. It would most likely be like a Zoom, which is what I did. So it's really hard to judge if the other system was as good. I can tell you that when the guy was turning his head like this, like the microphone cut out. We didn't see that with the Televix system. Tonight we had a speaker up here that you could barely hear because he wasn't close enough to the mic. That system to me fixes that. There are other vendors. They're not close. But we would do an RFP and go through that entire process. And if you guys said you wanted the Televix system, we could tailor the RFP to say we want that system. We may get AMS to come in less. We may get some other vendor to come in less. It's hard to say.
With doing the RFP, if it was focused on just the control room and not the apparatus, I mean, not knowing what the final apparatus could be, would that affect the quality or the project? Because there could be variables based on what type of microphones, et cetera. We wouldn't be able to have everything lined up. The project wouldn't move forward as efficiently, I feel, if we didn't do it as a package deal. But you tell me that because you're the expert.
Correct. Yeah. If we decided that we were going to fix that room and then maybe next year go for the Televix system, there is a chance that we wouldn't get exactly what we need in that room for the Televix system to tie in, and that we would have equipment in there that we only used for a year that would be no good. So
What about if in the RFP process, we said we wanted to do it in a two-phase process, with the first phase being in 2026 and the second phase being in 2027?
can we do that? Can we have a multi-year RFP?
No.
I'm just trying to think of.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like,
2 RFPs, one for 26 and one for 27.
because, part of the thing too is you could run into a situation where you have two different companies supporting it, because the same company might not get both parts of the RFP.
Okay, Stephen?
Can't we coordinate to make sure that whatever we're updating in there is going to be compliant with what is industry standard for this?
We can try to, but if a company doesn't have experience with the Televix system, we may not get the equipment that we need in that room.
Sometimes when you start to get into this IT stuff, that's when we start to run into like the single source vendor issue. So for example, like our camera system, right? Like you can't have 6 camera systems around the city. They all need to speak to each other. We need to view them through one operating system, et cetera. And so at some point, once you get so far down the line with one vendor, they become essentially a single source vendor. So I think that would be basically what would happen is if you did it in 2 phases, you know, you're going to probably lock yourself into the first vendor because you're not going to Joe's point, want to have a second vendor that can't support or speak to it, which is greatly going to limit your available options.
That'd be part of the RFP though, if they would have to tie into the system we have, if they can't.
But sometimes that literally limits you to one vendor.
Okay, Diane?
Thank you, Mayor. The old saying, money is time and time is money. We've talked in the last year plus, in fact, we've been talking about it through the years about, how do we properly communicate with our taxpayers? How do we let them know we're here? Obviously, it's been a bone of contention. Just, you talk to anyone at any seminars and such, we're all struggling in municipal government. Like, how do we get the word out that we're here? So we don't have people coming to us at the last minute saying, oh, you're not transparent. And, we didn't know this was happening. And it's like, I feel like, we do the very best we can. What disturbs me greatly is that we've been dealing with a system for a number of years where there are those of us sitting here mainly because of where we sit in these chambers, where we can't hear people. When we have public hearings and we can't hear people, whether opposing or for it. I will say, on a side note, listening to our city attorney speaking just a little bit slower, it was 90% better. But I mean, there's times when I usually can understand all or not, but it's just like one person over. Rick can go ahead and sit with his back against the wall and I can hear every word he says, but move there, it's like, I'm lost. I think in the past, I've asked our city administrators when it comes budget time, could you be there? Because then I can hear practically everything. But there's just, and I just happen to be in a spot that really stinks. I like the package deal. You look at what, like everyone else here, you look at what Joe's been able to accomplish with bare minimum support. Thank goodness we went ahead and found the computer people that we did. And we knew then when we went ahead and went in closed session to talk about what we needed to do, then we came out and approved that big dollar contract. We finally, I felt, really made an advancement to taking care of business, what we needed to do here. I don't like spending the money, but it's like once and for all, I remember there's been a number of people who've had to deal with IT. We had HR at one time, 5-6 years ago, doing IT. Then we had Jared, our city engineer and public works director. He had one more thing thrown on him. I think Dan Wick also had some IT there and stuff. I mean, it just keeps bouncing. So we finally are doing what I firmly believe is the right thing, is having one dedicated person. If we go the cheapest route, or maybe even this in option 2, my fear and or concern is that how much more time is he going to be spending on this? Because, well, we thought it would work, it doesn't work. I like to just put it to bed and be done with it, quite honestly. I understand the cost. I certainly understand the cost, but as someone who spent 18 years on the Technology Advisory Committee, we didn't like to spend money, but there are times when we said, because we had a concern when we would have RFPs and, our number one concern was, well, are we required by law to take the cheapest? Because when it comes to IT world, the cheapest isn't always the best, and it approves it over and over and over again. So I will certainly speak on behalf of on option 1. It's not cheap, I get it, but I'd really like to have it done. So when people come in, we hear them, they hear us.
She's saying one.
Option 1.
You want you want the
Yeah.
big one.
18,000?
The 218. It's about 18% more than option 2. I'm about statistics and calculating percentages and stuff, and for 18%. And so we can communicate with our taxpayers. I would support. I guess I'll have to go along with number 2, but I think we need to do number 1. Thank you, Rana.
Thank you, Larry Jurassic. And then
Thank
Mike, you can be next.
Thank you, Mayor. When you were going through the other entities that you can get money out of, those are accounts that we have money in, correct?
They are reserve funds in the equipment replacement
So
fund.
we don't have to borrow any money. We just pull it out of those reserves and pay it off.
Correct, but that would mean, as Alder Not pointed out, we are using some of our funds that we have invested, so just know that.
Right. And the one fund was already completed because we're using different equipment.
No, that money is sitting in a reserve right now. We would just, we would use that money.
Right.
So then we would no longer
Right.
have that money sitting there.
So we have the funds available. All right. You're,
Okay. Mike next, and then Kathy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess my question was just to kind of recap what Sabrina had mentioned. So I had jotted down 39.3 from a software fund, replacement fund. Is that right? Then I wrote down around 80,000. There's in another account. What was that account?
yeah.
88,586.74, and I would come back with a resolution.
Okay.
If that is what you chose to do.
And then the other one that was on there was about 18.5 in a general
Correct.
fund.
Correct.
Okay. So I just wanted to just have in my notes the right numbers here. And then that would be in addition to the 46.3 that we have in our capital improvement budget.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get the numbers clarified in my head. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Oh, sorry, Kathy, you were next.
Are we comfortable depleting those reserve funds so early in the year? I mean, that's my only concern is that it's only January. And I would hate for something to come up and then we've depleted the software fund and we find we need to pay for some kind of exorbitant cost for a software update or something.
Right, which is why I wouldn't want to touch the other three funds that I had mentioned.
Okay. So we will still have some funds in reserve
Correct.
as an emergency, just in case.
The purpose of the equipment replacement fund is to reserve funds for situations where we do need to spend the money.
Yep.
But it's just like any other savings account that once you spend the money,
It's gone.
you don't have, and there's not an automatic way where money gets put into that account other than this council puts it in there. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Right, I would agree with everything that you said, and I will be coming forward in February to move dollars from any excess revenues we had in 2025.
So that will.
And I will be putting additional funds because of we're using some of these for these types of projects.
Thank you.
But that doesn't happen automatically. The council has an opportunity to do that if we are so fortunate to have any excess revenues. Then the council has the opportunity to replenish the funds that we're expending right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephen Knott.
Just real quickly, so if we move forward with this and saying we're going to go forward and commit the entire 185, what we've just done today is spent $484,000 that was not in the FY '27 budget. That is subtracting the 46K already that was allocated. It still remains with $484,000 in 1 month. I am not comfortable with that. Again, I would be comfortable with, the 46K and adding the extra 50K into doing the room. I can't do any more than that and I'll have to vote against it.
Okay. Amanda?
I would just encourage somebody to put a motion on the table.
Okay.
We've had a lot of discussion without a motion.
Okay, I think we've had enough discussion where we can get a motion on the table if someone would like to make one. Jim Benash?
I'd like to motion we use option number 2 for technology improvements for the council chambers with the use of reserve funds as stipulated by our financial director.
Okay, just for clarification, it would be to move forward to create an RFP for option 2. That's what the,
Yes, ma'am.
yep, okay. Does that meet everyone's needs? All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Jim Benash. It's been seconded by Mike Milky to move forward, directing staff to move forward to create an RFP encompassing the things described in option 2 to be funded as described by our finance director. If that,
Like a roll call vote, please.
yeah, well, let's see if that encompasses what everyone intended. All right, now discussion. Mike Milky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I guess, we're looking at this and we are spending a lot of money today. One of these things is an emergency. This one is something that has affected people for years here in the chamber. The benefit of this option right now is that we are using money that is set aside for technology replacements and improvements. We're not taking a 5% loan on this over a 5-year window, doing a 20-year loan. This is something that we have the money for inside of different avenues within our not company, within the city. So yes, I understand Alder Knott's point, and it's clearly taken. But I just like to think about, that we have the money for this. It would make a big difference for everybody and the way we run our meetings. So I guess just wanted to add my opinion on that.
And also under discussion, this is to create the RFP, and so the amount is an estimate. And so what is the timeline from like creating the RFP, going out? Like, we're not spending the money today.
Correct.
We're
We would,
committing to the concept of spending the money
Right.
today.
right now with my workload, I would say I would probably have an RFP out by end of February, maybe early March, and then you've got a couple weeks waiting for responses, and then we'd be bringing people in for interviews. So, I mean, at the earliest, something would probably get installed would be July, August. And that's assuming that whatever vendor we went with has openings in their schedule.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I add one thing too? So just like I did get an estimate for replacing room 112, which came out to be about $80,000. And I just want to let you guys know that I don't feel that we need to spend $80,000 in that room. And that's why we're going to go with the $10,000 option that was already in equipment replacement with a mobile interactive display like we did in the fire department, like we're going to do in the police department. It's the same displays that we put in up at the Dash Center. So instead of spending $80,000 in that room, we are going to spend $10,000 and it will do everything that we need it to do. So just wanted to throw that out there too. So we won't have that weighing over our heads anymore.
Okay, thank you. Kathy and then Sabrina.
I actually just wanted to add that, I appreciate Alder Knott's idea of kind of trying to do it over a 2-year period. I think it does make sense that we would try to do something like that. I think the downfall is that the cost of technology continues to increase significantly. And if we wait another year, we're probably going to pay a significant more amount of money than we would if we tried to secure it all now.
Thank you for that. Sabrina?
I guess just guidance for me. Would you like me to wait to bring forward a resolution until we have picked an RFP?
Well, we won't know what the cost
Correct.
is until we have, because he'll prepare the RFP and then we won't know the cost until we select the vendor, right?
Correct.
So that's,
It's just a matter of, do you want us to do this? And this is the potential cost behind it. Because if 185, if that's the option everybody wants, if that amount isn't on the table, then there's no point in doing an RFP to get that system.
yeah. I mean, isn't that how you normally do it?
Correct. I'm just making sure that that's how you want me to handle it. You don't want it moved sooner than later.
Well, I don't think we know what the dollar amount is.
Okay.
Rick?
Yeah, and tonight was mainly for informational purposes in regards to the system that you saw. This is what it's going to cost. And so therefore, if you want to move forward with this kind of system, these are the costs that you can expect. Now we have to go forward and get the RFP responses and then see what those costs come in. Because it's more of a competitive nature when it comes to the RFP, it might come in less. We don't know that for certain, but there is a possibility because you have more than one person providing you with that estimate.
Yep. Or it could come out more.
It could.
And we could change our mind and say, that's too much, we don't want to do it.
Exactly.
Back.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, we've had that happen before too, where we have to rewrite the RFP to refine the request. Mike?
Last thing, quick, Mayor. So in our RFP, we're not going to put in that we have budgeted $185,000 for this.
I think we're committing that.
I don't like to do that.
No, right. So we're not going to just put a dollar figure because then people can kind of,
They would gear it to that.
right. We want to have a competitive nature and have a good RFP. So I'm just saying, we just don't want to have that number be like, our city council said this. So just, okay, thank you.
Is that
So
part of
you
the
will make it
motion,
out as though it's the
No.
Cadillac.
No,
Okay, good.
though? Wasn't that part of the motion, though?
it was option 2 in regards to the details of what would be in the RFP.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay? Is there any other questions? So we want to be clear. We don't have a
I
misunderstanding.
request a roll call, please.
Yep, I heard you. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to prepare an RFP using option number 2. And the eventual funding to be used as described by our finance director in the budget. The motion on the floor, a yes vote would be to approve, and we will be voting by roll call vote, which Joanne is going to call.
Larry Jurassic,
Yes.
Stephen Knott,
No.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Mike Milky,
Aye.
Jim Benash,
Yes.
Kathy Loendorf.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passes 5-1. Thank you for that. Okay, now we are on item 14. So there's 3 closed session items, which I will now read. Item 14, discussion and possible action on increased cyber security protection. Note, the Common Council may convene in closed session under section 1985-1D of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering strategy for crime detection or prevention. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue with the printed agenda. And we're going to go into closed session with one motion after I read all 3 of these. Item 15, discussion and possible action on interim police chief wage. The Common Council may convene in closed session under section 1985-1C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data for any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue with the printed agenda. And item 16, discussion and possible action on the development agreement with Terry Weiland Construction. Note, the Common Council may convene in closed session under section 1985-1E of the Wisconsin State Statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or the conducting of other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue with the printed agenda. If no action is taken, the Common Council may adjourn from the closed session. So we'll take a motion and a roll call to go into closed session, and we do anticipate reconvening in open session following the closed session time. Rick, did you want to say something first?
I just want to make sure, Amanda, do you want to have a conversation before that motion is to go in based on the case law that we had talked about? I wasn't sure the procedure. I just want to clarify that.
I mean, I can just give sort of a high level overview of each, of these. I think that item 14 sort of speaks for itself. Obviously, we need to talk about increased cybersecurity protections. And the statutes give us a way to do that in closed session. For security reasons, personnel matters are always in closed session. So item 15, we're discussing, as stated, the interim police chief wage. Item 16, discussion on the development agreement with Terry Weiland. That is the negotiation of a development agreement related to a development of land that's coming in from the town of Onalaska. That came out of plans Plan Commission closed session. This council has not had a chance to look at that. And so for negotiation purposes, we're going to discuss that item in closed session. And then obviously we may come into open session if any action is needed.
I'm sorry, I didn't really catch a lot of that. So,
Okay, I can restate it. She just did a high level overview on why we were going into closed session for each of these matters. For item 14, we need to go into closed session because we're going to be talking about cybersecurity protection and things that are related to I'm trying to think what the word is. Crime detection or prevention, like security cameras and that sort of thing. So for that reason, we need to be in closed session so the public doesn't become aware of any countermeasures that we're taking to deter that. On number 15, that is a personnel matter. And so we need that to be confidential because we're going to be discussing the wage of the interim police chief. And number 16, we're going to be talking about the development agreement that we have with Terry Wieland. We did discuss this at Plan Commission, but this council has not seen that plan, has not seen that agreement or had any chance to discuss that. And we are in it's a negotiation. And so that's why that has to be in closed session. And so we just want to be transparent about why we are going into closed session. Joanne, did you need to say something?
I just ask whoever makes the motion, if you could please clarify that if you would like to go into closed session for all three items, or if there's only one or two that you're making that decision on.
Okay, so is everybody comfortable with where we're at right now in the agenda? Okay, so at this point, we would like to have somebody make a motion regarding all three items that we'll be going into closed session, and then we'll have a roll call vote
I
regarding.
move to go into closed session for items 14, 15, and 16.
Second.
Okay, so the motion has been made regarding the three
Second.
items. Diane Wolf already seconded it. So the vote to go into closed session will be by roll call.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Kathy Loendorf. Aye. Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Jim Benash,
aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Mike Milky.
Aye.
Thank you. That was unanimous. We are in closed session. The time is 9:41.